better than getting a free champion, especially if they are a legendary? Today we are going to be talking about Greenwarden Ruarc. Hey you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to my channel. The champion that I'm talking about today is one that you guys can get if you're a new player and you're entering a new player code. If you are downloading Raid Shadow Legends, then you do want to use my link because that is going to start you off with Elenaril right away in your inbox. That is right, you get to start with a legendary. I do also include 3 other epic champions that you'll get along the way when you reach level 10, 20, and 30. So click the link down in the description box or scan the QR code on the screen to be able to get those champions. Now, once you get into the game, you do get to enter a new player code, and there is actually a new one that they have given us, and that is the champ I mentioned earlier, who is Greenwarden Ruarc. This champion is a part of the Sylvan Watchers, so we need to go ahead and take a look at what this champion does. This champion looks super cool. So he is a legendary defense type. He does have an aura increasing ally defense in all battles by 30%. Skill 1 attacks one enemy. It's going to transfer all debuffs from this champion to the target. Heals this champion by 5% of their max HP for each debuff transferred. This is one of those skills that is going to be really helpful for you if you are going into PvP and you're fighting against champs who are going to try to like debuff you. You will be able to transfer them and get a little bit of a heal. I do also think this is something that is going to help you out when you're making your way through the PvP modes, especially early on PvE. Next, we go into the skill 3. Now, this places a taunt buff, and this is one of those buffs that, especially when you're starting out, you're not going to have a lot of champs that are going to do that. So it might be something that is going to interest you a little bit. And if you want to go ahead and take a look at what taunt actually does so that you're understanding it just a little bit more and what this champion is actually going to be able to do for you. The taunt debuff is if a champion is under it, then enemies can only target that champion. So essentially, if you want to make sure that you are the champ that's getting targeted and not somebody else on your team, that is where the taunt is going to come into play. And then there's a few other things that he's going to do. So if there's multiple champions under taunt buffs on a team, then buffs that affect targeting like Veil or Perfect Veil will take effect to decide who will be targeted. So something to factor in. And the looking at it when using an AoE attack, only the champion under the taunt buff can be targeted, but their allies will still take damage from AoE attacks. So something to keep in mind, but it is a way for you to kind of get more damage onto you while protecting other champs on the team. Now, next, if we are moving into the other things he's going to do, increasing defense buff and a strengthen buff on this champ for 2 turns. So it is nice that if you're getting the taunt placed on you, you'll increase your defense and increase the strengthen as well. So very helpful. Now this champ also has a passive. So whenever an ally loses 10% or more of their max HP from the hit, it's going to place a shield buff on that ally for 2 turns equal to 10% of their max HP. So he is a champ that is going to be able to help in keeping some support going on within your team. I do think he is a pretty cool champ, and if it is the one that you want to consider getting, then you're going to want to enter the code TREEHUGGER. You want to do this right away after downloading the game, and you can only enter one of these codes, so you definitely want to pick wisely, but I do think he can be an interesting champ. If we're talking about actually building this champion, then there is a few things that you do need to kind of think about and take into consideration. So him being a legendary defense type, then you are going to be focusing on stats like HP, defense, some speed, and you are going to want a little bit of accuracy in here. So you are landing those debuffs. So he is really going to be more of the supportive kind of tanky type. Though something, again, you want to factor in because you are putting him on your team. If he is the one that you are picking, then you might be lacking a little bit of damage. So keep that in mind when you are picking that code is, do you want somebody who's going to be a little more supportive, or do you want somebody who is going to do a little more on the attack side, for example? Now, I did mention that you guys are using my code, so you are getting yourself Elenaril. So one thing that she is going to be good for, and one thing that they'll pair together, is that this is where you get the attack type, because Elenaril is the one who's going to do HP burn, and then she's got poisons in her skills, and she's actually going to be able to activate those poisons. So one of those ways that you are going to be able to get a little bit of damage. So maybe you've got the attack side covered, and that is where you go kind of towards defense. Although we are talking about Greenwarden, and I really do want to highlight him in this video, I have done a dedicated breakdown where I do talk about the other player codes. So be sure that you check that out if you want more of a dedicated breakdown, but I will give you guys a quick overview of that now. If you want to look more into the dedicated PvP side, then we're going into the skinwalkers, and we're actually going into Sun Wukong. So Sun Wukong is a really great champion, but I would say that he is a very PvP focused champion. He is one that I really only use in arena now, although early on I did actually use him in other areas of the game and he did fine, but I would say that he is a great arena champ. His aura gives you a speed lead for arena. His skill 1 has a chance to stun. His skill 2 is going to ignore some of the target's defense. The nice thing with this one is that he is going to attack all remaining enemies with any surplus damage if he actually kills his target. And this attack will also ignore 50% of the target's defense. So one thing that is really nice, now if the target survives, then instead he's going to sheep them, and that debuff cannot be resisted. Third skill, this is where you get an AoE in there, attacks everyone, but before attacking, he'll steal all buffs from all enemies and place a block buff debuff on them for 2 turns, while having a passive that he has that chance to actually self-revive. So a champ that is going to be really great for Arena. If that's really where you want to focus, then for him, it's going to be Monkey King to get you this champ. Another attack option that you do have is going to be Alice. The code to get her is going to be GETALICE. So her as a champion increases ally attack in all battles by 30% for her aura. Skill 1 is going to attack an enemy 2 times. And she's actually going to place an extra hit if the target has any active skills on cooldown. Each of these hits has a chance of actually decreasing the duration of a random buff on the target by a turn. Second skill is going to attack all enemies with a chance of increasing the cooldown of all enemy skills. And then she also has the ability of decreasing the turn meter by a little bit. Her other skills, she's going to have one that's going to ignore part of the target's defense. And if they're killed, then it is going to actually attack somebody else. She does have a passive and an active effect. So whenever she attacks, it's going to inflict more damage to each target for each turn remaining on all of the skills cooldowns. And then an active effect, resetting the cooldown of one of this champion's skills each time that they kill an enemy. So her kit is really around attack, and she is one that you could use in PvP, but I also think she is going to work really well for PvE aspects, doing different things in the dungeons. So another one that you may want to consider. I will actually do a dedicated video on this champion, so be sure that you do subscribe so you're able to see what we do there. If we're going further into the attack side, you also have that choice of Supreme Galek. So increasing ally attack in battles by 33%, hitting an enemy 2 times with the skill 1, but also increasing the duration of HP burn. Second skill attacks 4 times at random, while you're able to place a 50% increased hack buff on this champ. Each hit has a chance of inflicting a critical hit on there, as well as activating any HP burn debuffs on there, and fills this champ turn meter by 30% if 3 or more of those debuffs are activated during the attack. Skill 3, attacking all enemies and having a chance of inflicting a critical hit. Also having a chance of placing HP burn and a block buff debuff. Placing a 30% decreased speed debuff on all targets whose turn meter is higher than 50%. As a passive that whenever he receives any one of these debuffs, it's going to remove him, fully heal this champ, and grant an extra turn. So he is another good option. I do like his HP burn in there. I think that works well for a champion. So again, he is an attack type. I would say he is a little more geared towards PvE, not as much for PvP like Arena, but more so going down into dungeons and doing things like that. Not to say you won't be able to use him in Arena, but it is not a place that I think he's really going to shine. But again, he is one of those options that you can pick. We do also have more of the dedicated support side. So now we are looking at Loki, and the code to get him is going to be GETLOKI. So his aura increases ally accuracy in battles by 60. So if you feel like you want a bit more accuracy, first skill attacks everyone. He's kind of one of those unique champions because he actually is able to do things like Veil or Perfect Veil in his skills. So for himself, if this champion is under it, then the chance increases to 50% of actually increasing that duration of enemy debuffs, which is kind of nice in there. He does have a skill 2 where it is one of those skills that he can either pick himself or pick a target, and depending what you pick is going to depend on what this champion can actually do. Third skill, he has a chance of actually stealing all buffs from a target enemy and their turn meter. This can actually not be resisted if he's under Veil or Perfect Veil buff, so kind of working into this skill if he ends up putting it onto himself, which is really nice. Now, if the target's turn meter was not stolen, it's going to fill the turn meters of all allies by 15% instead. Places an increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. He does have a passive effect and an active effect. This is with the Perfect Veil, so it places it on this champ for 2 turns, and then depending on how you're actually using that, it is going to affect a bit more of what this champion does. So out of all of them, I'd say that Loki is a little more complicated in how you use him, just simply because you have an option, self-picking a target. So I do think that makes him kind of fun to use, and him being a support, you can definitely use him in dungeons, and I have before, but really more PvP in Arena is kind of where I've used him and where he can shine, but another great option if you wanted to pick one. So you do really have a ton of options when it comes to picking one of these new player codes, but this one being the newest, he's the only one on this list that is actually that defense type, and I do think that transferring all buffs from this champion to the target is really nice. So as I said, you definitely have options in there, but I would not overlook Greenwarden. I do think he is a champ that can be a little bit fun. Now, him compared to everybody else on the list that you can potentially pick. You've got a lot of options, and it just really depends on your playstyle, what you want to focus on in the game, and which one of these champions sticks out the most to you. You also have the ability to enter some other codes. These are every 24 hours. You can pick one of these, and there are currently 4 active codes. The first code is going to be Game Leap. This will get you 1 full energy, 10 XP brute, and 100k silver. The next code is PP500. This gets you 150 times multi-battle attempts, 200 energy, 400k silver, and 500 Plarium points. The next one is going to be Yearly Gift. That gets you 10 XP brew, 1 rank 4 chicken, 350 multi-battle attempts, 100 energy, and 500k silver. And the last one being 1M Gift. This gives you 1 full energy, 2 rare skill tomes, 3 rank 3 chickens, and 300k silver. Just be sure that you are entering these codes to at least make sure that you do take advantage of all those freebies. If you download Raid Shadow Legends using my link, I'm actually going to start you off with the free legendary champion on day 1. And then at level 10, level 20, and level 30, you'll get yourself an epic. That is 4 amazing champions that you can get just by downloading using my link. I do think it's cool that they've added a legendary defense champ for new players to pick from. So again, pick one of these codes so you are starting your journey off the best way possible. Hopefully this video kind of helps you out and break it down. Now, if I had this champion, I would show him to you guys. So maybe I'll pull him in the future and be able to do a video. So be sure that you do subscribe so that you don't miss out on that video. And comment down below which of these champions you would actually pick to start with. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!